You want to make money on MMA? LaTB. You want to know who to put it in your parlay? LaTB. You want to know our DraftKings stay away? LaTB. So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick?
Welcome back to the show. We got another show for the week coming at you. What a recap we're gonna have. It was one of the more exciting shows of the year so far. We're still pretty early in the year, but the upsets that came through, the LaTB plays, stayaways that came through, and more so underdogs that we had the night riddled with underdogs. LaTB here, Lesbo coming through on the DraftKings pick. The Bean making some cash all over the place.
Yeah,
definitely.
Good night for you on parlays.
Parlays as well as, dare I say, I believe I placed 23rd on Tapology in the world.
It's a pretty good one.
That was a pretty good score out of like 1,400 people. So, you know you're making some money. Henry, humongous play. I guess we got to get there. The night started off first with another bout. If you're following us on Twitter and or YouTube or wherever you can, but you saw that we put an alert out 15 minutes out that Harpquast, Nazrat versus Nad ended up falling out due to Hakparas and ended up being called not ready to fight due to doctor's orders. I don't know if it was a stomach issue, a weight cut, or
I heard weight cut, but I don't know. That could have just been people.
So he hurt himself so much in the weight cut that he wasn't able to recover in time to fight. Yeah, is kind of what I'm assuming.
Or he walked in too heavy. I have no idea.
So not only was this the only bout that fell out, prior to that we also had Brad Scott versus Marshman fall out at 170 pounds. Brad Scott, short notice, actually was going to make 170 pounds. Marshman, who had more time to get ready due to a few other opponents falling out, ended up not going to make weight. Brad Scott had a really touching, crying moment. If you saw it all over the internet. Yeah, he definitely was super sad that they called this bout off. He needs a lot of money. That's why he took it short notice. He is asking and begging for his Reebok sponsorship, even though it's $5,000. He's like, I need $5,000 right now.
Did he make weight?
He did not. He wishes he made weight just so that he could prove to himself, because he just got on a first plane home because he's like, F this, I'm out of here.
Wow,
so
that's sad.
It is maybe not playing. Maybe
some coverage. They should get some money for all that.
Right.
Regardless.
So he's looking for another fight. They're already trying to book him. We have had a bunch of other fights also be locked and loaded. What was some of the big information? There was a few.
If you were following us on Twitter, which would behoove you to do, we're not asking you to follow us on Patreon. We give this information out for free. Up to the minute. We dropped a few parlays of the night up to the minute that you would have made good money on, and we're just out there trying to make you guys money. Trying to make you money, people. LaTB Legion's got to be a bunch of thousandaires walking around. Thousandaires.
At the very least. So, if you don't like what the bird's saying, don't listen.
The bird?
So, we started off the whole night with a 10-card bout. It ended up boiling down to, I absolutely loved the pacing of this Fight Pass card. It was fight after fight. We didn't have big breaks going on due to the lack of commercial that we had to go through. So, as far as an MMA fan, I was super pumped. A lot of people were giving this card shit, but I feel like we were talking good stuff about this card because it was way closer than people thought. And guess what? Made some money.
And if you have 2 weeks between fights, I'm not going to talk shit. You can pretty much put whatever in there.
Bet you that bitch.
I just need a fight. I need a fight. I need a fight to happen, and it was better than I thought it was going to be the entire fight night. To my disappointment, I just found out that it's going to be 2 weeks till the next fight.
3, the next fight specifically?
I thought it was next week.
Another 2 weeks of walking on eggshells as far as fights being canceled. We just saw a card take up to the minute. And that's how it happened last time with Habib and Ferg. Habib couldn't make was it the weight cut? What was it, the issue?
The tiramisu?
The tiramisu, literally the day before.
The
night before. So I'm hanging on. I feel like I've retweeted a few times where it's been a gif of a European guy just being like, I'm barely hanging on. And he cries for 2 minutes.
I feel like watch out for Joanna's weight cut over Khabib's.
She fired her last nutritionist specifically, so she's getting
she might be all right then.
Yep.
She might be okay.
That, remember, she got, it wasn't her fault.
She's
wasn't her
taking
fault.
No responsibility.
Wasn't her fault. So, with these 10 bouts, we ended up starting with the heavyweights at 265 pounds, debuting Dmitry Slavnovsky ended up beating Mark Godbeer in a rear naked choke, round number 2. Most people had this knockout. I had a knockout one. Godbeer's chin looked a little bit better. Godbeer looked better than he had ever looked to me. He actually was almost won that fight a few times. What I absolutely hated about Snarnovsky is his 3-year break. It looks like the juice might have slowed down a little bit for him. A lot of people were speculating that apparently. That's why he took the time off to get that stuff out of his system. But he didn't look as athletic as he usually did. But it wasn't even that got it for me. What I absolutely despise Godbeer, and he I don't think is necessarily UFC caliber.
Sarsnovsky.
Dmitry
Sarsnovsky
is definitely somebody who I'm going to make money on later, as I was alluding to before on the breakdown. There was a
betting against him
because he gave up some transitions there that he gave up. Godbeer didn't win the top position. He put his hips in front and sat down. It was some of the most baffling groundwork I've ever seen, but against a good ground guy in heavyweight,
he's going to get taken.
He's going to get eaten alive on the ground. Godbeer is just not that level, so people are really hyped on this young man.
I think there's money to be made against betting against both fighters going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. With that, though, there was some bullshit. I must call number one bullshit.
Oh, this is where it all started.
This is where the first fight of the night is where it all started. The ref ended up standing in the first round, standing up Dmitry from side control over Godbeer.
That took forever for him to get.
Yeah, he worked the whole time. That's why he gassed way more than I liked. Dmitry gassed tons, and it was because he was advancing, again putting himself in precarious situations. Eventually we got it back though, because Godbeer was in full mount, landing ground and pound, and the ref stood it up because the fans were booing, which
okay,
I guess bad ref call.
London.
It was just horrible reffing, absolutely atrocious. It was one of the worst calls of the night.
But we also saw some of the best reffing we saw during that night.
I would agree with that.
You actually pointed it out a few times, and I don't know if you want to give a shout out to the name. Was it Mark Goddard?
It was Mark Goddard during his fights. We'll get there.
Okay.
But coming up, we had a bout at 155 pounds. Cajun Johnson defeating Stevie Ray via split decision. Stevie Ray being a huge favorite, and it was really interesting judging for me because even though Cajun won some of the more exchanges, he was backing up, as I was saying before the breakdown. Cajun ran the whole time, or not. He was just pretty, times almost tucked and running.
In my opinion, than he had in previous fights. There were times that he did, he was backing up a lot, but I did feel like he had a lot more pressure than I had noticed before.
I thought Stevie Ray had Cajun on his back foot the whole time. They both hurt each other, and even Stevie Ray hurt Cajun, knocked him down. Was it in the first round?
Something that we were noticing that ended up being another theme throughout the night is we don't think the judges were giving any kind of credit for significant strikes and leg kicks. We noticed that any of the fighter we saw with the controlling leg kicks wasn't laying as much punches, and the judges weren't noticing the leg kicks. Stevie Ray was laying nice leg kicks throughout this fight. We were baffled by the decision at the end, and
the crowd booed as well. It was controversial. It was a split decision, and actually, Cajun Johnson made a really good point. I actually really liked it, where he said, "It's not up to me, guys." He thought it was a close fight as well, and he's like, "It's the judges who made the call, and both of them were trying to knock each other out. Neither one of them wasn't trying to fight as much as I like to say Cajun was running away. He wasn't. It was a dogfight in there.
Fight.
The scrambles were unbelievable. They really were.
Both guys left it in there, and I don't, personally, as a fan, I don't like when people boo unnecessarily. Sometimes boredom if you're bored while you're watching two men in there, you don't know enough about the sport.
The scrambles were unreal in that fight, the more I think about it, where we were seeing crazy levels of transitions. I'm still trying to fade Cajun Johnson, but I feel like I can't. He's
got some. Both guys got fights left, and
Yep.
these guys are both going to be card ruiners going forward. I think they're going to be stayaways going forward, and not because you don't want to bet on them, but stay away from their fight altogether. Because if you bet against them, they're going to screw you, and if you bet on them, they're going to screw you. That's how I feel about both these guys.
I agree 100%. Gonna be super tentative, but Stevie Ray definitely messed up some of my DK cards. I still did really well, but
He wasn't
that was one
awful
of
though. I
those-
think he got 45.5.
True. He was on
Or
a lot of
something
top
around
cards
there.
as well. So it was a night for everybody. There were so many upsets. Cajun being one of those, I think 2-1 underdog that came through. Then we ended up having about at
Oh my
205
gosh.
pounds.
This makes me
was
want
a
to just fall out of
mauling.
my chair.
This was an absolute mauling. Everybody minus 700 opened at like minus 100, got pushed up to minus 700. People are like, this is unreal. The Russian fighter debuting against Paul Craig, who's chinny, ended up winning 3 rounds, 4 minutes and 58 seconds of a fight, and tapped with 1 second left. You're not going to see this shit anywhere else, any other sport. March Madness is going on, and it's in the cage. That's the March Madness I'm talking about. That's why you need to have more cards to compete against March Madness. If not compete, complement it.
So you would say Paul Craig was kind of like the University of Baltimore or whatever that college was that just,
UMB,
that just beat
UBM,
Virginia.
Yeah. Or Kansas.
Paul
the number
Craig is that of the MMA.
He
right
lost. When did he win any of that fight?
now. No, none of it.
None of it. Absolutely none of it. And that triangle was slapped on within the last 10 seconds of the fight. The clackers went, and he grew the triangle up. So in under 10 seconds,
Would you have been able to
He
hold
down.
it? Would you have been able to hold on?
how many positions did I tell you he could have? He just sat there. The Russian fighter, Ankalev.
Because I
ended up-
heard people hating too, like only a common fan or what do they call a casual fan would say they could have held that. And you made a good point that he could have stood up and
He could
pushed
have-
his whole body weight into it.
There's multiple ways, but sitting there and not moving at all is not what you do. What you want to do is you crunch him, squish him by going into it, and you can stack him. Or what you can do is put a shin across his face and step over, or rotate, circle around on the outside, or even use that hand that's on the inside and rip the hip and leg over. People might not know this, but this is a Sambo guy. This is a guy that on the ground is fairly tested, and Paul Craig, I feel like being a layman, and I'm not even a blue belt, I'm a white belt. It's been long enough. I'm definitely a white belt again, but I would have figured out a way. There's enough of I would have figured out something to just, or went out. Because what happens? You go out, and you go out. Then it all be to Craig.
But
Ugh.
if there were belts in wrestling, what would your belt be?
I don't know. I don't want to say a black belt because I was no D1 wrestler by
Brown.
any means. Yeah, I'd be definitely at
Solid
least.
brown belt?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
if there was belts in wrestling, that would be something that in wrestling you would have that kind of know-how of your body that you're like, I push all my pressure away from the choke, even if it meant right into his gut, and I was suffocating myself this way. I don't know.
There's just
I don't want to take away, obviously, but and it was in the heat of the fight, but
huge underdog.
1 second, and he would have been worth he was worth a lot of points in a loss. So, geez.
And Ankleev was everybody who even ranked first, because I looked at a lot of different DraftKings plays, still had him on their first cards. That's how heavily owned. He was owned in like that 70-80% range in a lot of the
I hate to say
lobbies
this,
I had.
Paul Craig's going to ruin more cards going forward.
I'm going to bet against him again.
And that's why he's going to ruin cards for us. And he's not going to win every fight. The one day you're like, I
All
hate
right.
to say this, I'm going to bet
He's
on Paul Craig. Then he'll retire.
But this was the biggest underdog of the entire night to come through. I mean, was this a legendary underdog?
It had to have been a pretty high one.
One of the most, but it was also 10 bouts. So,
Against the debuter, right?
no, both of against the debuter. That's true. That's
So
true.
It's weird that those odds exist.
Every time that most of the time when we see debuters with a ton of hype, Well, I can't say most. Some come through, some don't. We saw it tonight. Some came through, more didn't,
Yeah.
but some were big dogs, and that's why you gotta know where to play the money
I think
at.
what's the guy that just is coming out of Mark Hunt's camp right now, and there's all the hype behind him.
Tai Tuivasa?
Tai Tuivasa.
He just got to fight. That's who it was.
Yeah, so you have Tai Tuivasa, where you still feel like right now he's in Nagano. There's this earned hype behind him. He's Leon Olenek. There's hype behind him. Okay, it's going good. And then we have just as many baby Albinis. Where it's like that first fight comes out, they starch the dude. Yeah. It's like, whoa, look at this crazy. He comes out his next fight, and you're like, what was they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with his shorts?
With those guys, what are you going to do with Akhmaev?
I'm not going to be very super high on him going forward. And it's, even though he controlled this fight, in my opinion, he controlled the fight against Craig. So I don't know if I feel really good about Craig or if I feel good about him. But I don't fade either guy either. I think they're both are...
On the up and up?
I don't think Craig's on the up and up. I think he's going to be a constant cog in the wheel of the UFC. Because what is he from Scotland? Big Scottish guy?
Yeah. Yep.
So I feel they're really pulling that Scotland pride, and it was heavy on this card. So we'll see Paul Craig again.
We will.
We'll see Ankleev again too.
Because he'll be able to beat other... Maybe, because a lot of people can beat Paul Craig. God, it was such a weird night. It was fun, though. It was fun. I was ups and downs. I almost passed out a few times. On to, though...
But I think a rule of thumb that I've learned from this fight is if they debut in and they over 9 on DraftKings, they're never worth it.
Never.
They're never come out and they're worth it.
Yep.
So, learn from that. Live and learn. Hashtag live and learn.
With another debuting fighter, we had a humongous underdog. This could have been our Leslie Smith underdog pick of the week, but it was a tentative pick. We both ended up coming up with Henry. We both thought decision, or did you think finish?
I had Henry decision by
had decision.
But in our discussion on air, we both felt like the finish was there for Henry.
Potentially. And well, I thought that also Akeem debuting could have got the finish as well, but Henry didn't give him any chance to breathe. Came right at him. Henry looked good at the weigh-in. His first fight in the UFC that he ended up winning short notice, he did look a little soft, but he is filling out at 155 pounds, 6 foot. He was all sorts of Akeem's face, ended up winning via submission due to a guillotine choke, but that was really set up via that overhand right. That hurt Akeem right away. Humongous underdog came through. There was a couple parlays that I had Henry on, and he fattened him up at a minus 230, minus 245. If you listen to LaTB and you subscribing and hitting that bell, you making money. It's hard to hold these gators down.
Yeah, it's hashtag we love a good live dog.
Woo!
And I believe Danny Henry was our live dog this week.
But we had a few of them, and they came through.
I think we might need to hone in on that term as well. And we did forget to pick our Leslie Smith underdog on air, but if you follow us on Twitter, you would have gotten that information ahead of time, which ended up being Jan, which you kind of could, Jan Blakavik, which if you were listening on air, you kind of could feel that we were going toward that direction. If we could have picked 3 Leslie Smith underdogs.
We really could have. But we just went with our most comfortable
3.
one. We went also with our most comfortable one, which did come through.
And something else we'll learn about going later on is if we ever agree on the round and how the fight's going to be finished and what fighter, which is a pretty rare thing that we agree on all 3 of them.
On tap.
If we agree on that right away, the B makes a parlay bet. And so he did that on air last week, and then he did it again because he forgot he did it on air. 2 bets, please. 2 bets. What up, 2 bets?
It was pretty heavy duty, so it's looking good on those picks. On to Danny Roberts at 170 pounds.
This is our hashtag, I think, hashtag little dog. Like, we should have stayed under the porch with this one. We were so wrong.
Versus Endcamp. Endcamp, growing into his body, still looks like a kid, but has room to grow. I was making an analogy. He's a puppy that still has, and you can see it. He's got a big frame.
I'm worried about
take
that.
A punch.
People, in my opinion, now what I see when I see these young kids in the UFC, they came in too young because now they're playing with such elite of elite, they can't grow into themselves like they could if they were in lesser organizations. I feel like he might be too young. Like, we might never see him reach the caliber that we would because there's too many monsters around here. There's too many monsters.
This is
You
the
can't have a
truth.
puppy playing with dragons.
But they need to get the hype in that part of the country. Where's he from? NCamp. Where is that? Sweden? Who else is there? Yeah, it's Sweden, I believe.
But what the other thing, I cannot believe we didn't talk about Danny Roberts training with our Usman.
That 2 months, though.
Would that have swayed us if we were like, Usman wouldn't have let him fight? We trust Usman.
We do trust Usman. And I feel like I had Roberts initially, and then I ended up switching.
This would be the one I apologize about, if any of you, but I felt like I only said I was 30%. But I
Truth.
was very heavy chatty about this, so.
It was all that chin that scared me off with Roberts, so
You can't
Roberts
win
is
them
still
all.
a bit...
You
yeah.
can't win them all.
And that chin against the better striker who can take a punch will
The
still
chin might
maybe
be fine next time.
He didn't need a... It was a quick one as well. This was a quick one. Danny Roberts was a slight favorite as well, but... And Kemp did stiff a little of my cards. I didn't put him on DraftKings too much. He was in a couple parlays,
Where
but...
do you see these guys going forward? Are you going to bet on them?
I'm going to potentially bet against Robert. No. Ugh.
I could
This
bet
is-
on Danny Roberts. I don't know.
I'm betting
about
against Encamp for sure.
Agree.
Yeah, Encamp for sure. Roberts, it's tentative on the fights. Encamp, I think that is... As much as he's grown into his body, he's got to grow into MMA a little bit more. Go back to the regional scene, if not.
I think he needs to go down to 155.
I think he needs to go to America. Probably that American top team type of style if he isn't already there.
Around the world, they're coming to America.
Damn, is that the boss?
I think it's,
Neil Diamond?
yeah.
Neil, good old Neil.
Good old Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond. He was the original Platinum Perry.
That is very,
Kinda.
very true.
Kind of.
Better singer. So, on to the 185 pounds. If you are subscribed to our Twitter, you're going to see that last day ended up putting out our cards via Twitter. I ended up switching to Charles Bird. I talked up Charles Bird a big game and was surprised that listening back to our own show that I went with Phillips, and I ended up switching it. I made a good choice here. Ended up making up for that Encamp pick. Switched it over, so I feel like I neutralized myself on that one. But the submission openings were there for Johnson. You could see it was right away. Bird went right in for the takedown, stayed on his back until he got the rear naked choke. There wasn't much to be said other than Phillips can be heavily exploited on the ground. I also got him confused with karate style by saying he looked like Gunny, but it was Encamp who looked like Gunny, just a way younger version. Either way, Phillips, a brawler with no ground game, was exploited. That's going to happen again. I'm going to fade Phillips unless they put him in with a brawler. If there's somebody who likes to brawl, Phillips is going to catch him, and people are going to make money and then hype him up.
I don't see too much happening for either guy going forward.
I'm liking Bird. I'm liking Bird. He's got good striking that he didn't use at all.
And in my opinion, Bird submitted Phillips.
I like Bird. I think I'm going to end up... There are spots that he's going to be a nasty underdog. He's a tough fighter. Rocked Up City, do you see that young man? 43 or 34 years old. He was a brick shit house. Bird, no, he didn't look...
Andy's 34?
34.
Yeah, he's not going very much further.
Woo! On to
Bird hater. Hashtag bird hater.
that Bird. That damn Bird. Going on to Leon Edwards versus Peter Sabata. Ended up... Did we both go on Edwards? I believe I had Edwards.
I had Edwards by decision.
I did as well. This ended up being a TKO in the very last second. I feel like
Last second.
last second
Again.
was a record-breaking 2 times that's ever happened in a night. I don't know if each one was the latest because DJ beat Horiguchi in a 5-rounder in the last 4 with 59. So that's technically the oldest. But these in competition, not
13-3.
championship rounds, in one night. How unbelievable is that? I mean, Edwards won the entire fight. Knockdowns about a few times prior to
He
this.
didn't have to finish it. He would have...
He could have ridden it out and kept punching, but that I love even more about Edwards. And he's just like, he's not somebody who's just going to coast, which means DraftKings money. That's DraftKings money.
Wasn't
all
that
day.
one of the ones that was reffed by Mark Goddard that we were like, that was a good call to stop that fight?
I do believe that there was a groin strike or two in this one, but there was a point in time where Mark Goddard, I believe it was either a foot or a hand in the shorts, and Goddard said, "Stop, put your hand," or no, it was in the gloves. But no, that was that. No, that was a different fight. Either way, this was a pounded by Edwards. Sabata was on his way out. Is on his way out.
Sabata's on his way out. Leon's still climbing that rung. He'll be interesting going forward, and he is going to be a guy who stifles fight styles going forward. He's
all the way around.
Very stifling fighter.
That takedown defense held up. Was really preaching that. If you're listening to the Bean,
you know we talk about well-rounded MMA fighters that aren't really specialties anywhere. He's one of those guys. He's a very well-rounded.
But now it's a high level of well-rounded, not just bargain basement well-rounded. He's like excelling in all of it.
I like him. I like Leon Edwards, and I hope they play the ladder smart, and I hope they just don't feed him to the wolves right away. I hope they give him 2 more fights before he gets into the top 15, top 10 guys.
Then we ended up going...
My boy Dookie! What up, Dookie?
El Duke, Tom Dukamar defeating Terrion Tupperware. There was all sorts of boos for this one because a lot of people...
Decision.
It was a sketchy decision. I was hearing a little bit of shade on Tupperware himself saying, you really like him, but I don't think he's that good. He fights up to the competition level. The leg kicks, this is where you were saying the leg kicks weren't adding up. Duke landed a million leg kicks. Ware was just wearing them. As I said, he could wear them, and he did. I do feel like Dan Hardy kind of listened to LaTB and took that line from me, just saying.
It's not even because I'm such a Terrion Ware hater with the shade. It's because I don't think Dukenwa is that great.
Which we
the
both
same
said.
Guys fight on the same card. So Ware having a hard time with Dukenwa, even though I believe personally, even though I had Dukenwa decision, I believe Ware won the decision of that fight. But it paid back the fight that went the other way for me earlier in the night. That was a sketch decision. They're both interesting prospects going forward because of they're both skilled and pretty young.
But Ware might get his bye-bye papers.
His
3 in a row. 3 in a row in a division that's heavy and looking for guys are looking to come in this division.
Bye-bye, T-Ware.
It's unfortunate because it's going to be tough for him. He can beat a lot of lower guys. If you like to bet on those under-series fights on the undercard, Terrion Ware is going to be holding a belt wherever else he's at. But it's tough. I know. Bear Dooface, but what happened? What happened, Bear Doof? On to the co-main event,
hasn't won a fight since he stopped doing that face.
We'll see. There's a couple theories out there. The co-main event, though, this ended up being the LaTB underdog pick of the week. We were the most confident this fight was going to go the way it was. I saw the finish potentially happening. This ended up going to a decision, but with this, I don't see how it was even close. Did somebody give it to Jimmy? Was this a split decision?
I think
or was it a solid decision? No.
A solid 3-round decision.
I think it was a solid 3-round decision as well because that first round was a 29... was a 10-8 round for my boy, Blachowicz.
He knocked him down.
Almost knocked him out. I mean, Jimmy Manawa was in survival mode from that point on for the rest of the 2 rounds. Stayed in it, was throwing some hard body shots. Really love how he dug in.
His nose was busted up. He couldn't breathe out of it after the first, 30 seconds of round 1.
Yeah, once it got pieced up by Blachowicz. Again, as we were saying, Blachowicz is coming into his own in this 205 heavyweight air. They got a little more time on the clock.
Well, and the other thing is Jimmy, the only thing he beats Jan in, the only area is power. That's the only way. Jan had to avoid, maybe the first 3 minutes of the fight,
And when he hurt him, it took it all away immediately.
Yeah, and once he hurt him a few times, kicked his legs a few times, he blocked a few good head kicks, Jan did, took away some of that power everywhere. It was manageable from that point on for him, and he kind of controlled the fight from that point on. You could tell anytime he was losing the fight, to the layman's terms, he was just catching his breath. Like where it looked like he was just like taking some to give some or letting him have control against the cage. He was just catching his breath. I loved the way Jan handled this fight. But we saw it happening exactly like this.
It was an exciting fight, and we did see it happening pretty much like this.
We didn't trust Jimmy's chin at all. We thought it was going to be a knockout. That is the number one thing that we thought.
I feel like that set up this entire fight was that initial Jimmy being like, I can't rush in and throw bombs like I would normally.
How is Jimmy the favorite in this?
Hey, I made some money because I had
Me
Henry, Block, and a main event in my back pocket. That fucking cashed huge money. But Blockowitz, again, I'm going to be putting against other guys. Jimmy, he can he can beat other guys. He can blitz other guys, but Block is...
Jimmy's a big enough name still in London if he wants to still get in the ring and box somebody.
So does Block take that 4 spot?
Yes, for sure.
So now Jimmy doesn't go to 13, but somebody takes that 13
He goes to
spot.
like 8.
Right, somewhere in there, move everyone else down. But Blockowitz all of a sudden making top names in there.
Block's dangerous at 205.
This was fight of the night as well.
Was it?
I believe this was fight of the night.
It was a grinding for big guys. I was impressed with the amount of action that was inside.
I would agree, even though it was a decision. Both of them scored pretty well.
One of my favorite things that Jimmy kept doing, he would get fucking like a triple boom, 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 punched in the face. Come on. And then he'd get kicked in the head. Come on. Then he'd get punched in the body. Come on. It was like,
he's obviously winning.
He's coming on. Why don't you come on? Yeah, good fight. Lesbo and The Bean call. Tell your friends. Tell your friends if you want to make some money.
Tell your kids. Tell your wife.
Tell your mama and your sister too. Lesbo and The Bean is making money for you. Do your dance. Do your dance.
I'll make money moves. I'll make money moves. I'll make money moves. So,
we just podcast now. We make money moves.
Definitely going to be making some more money on Blockowitz as the line goes down.
Agree, because he's going to be an underdog from this point out.
Still, even though he's going to get that 4th ranked spot now. So, interesting how it goes down.
They'll do something slick where they'll think like a Luke Rockhold will walk through him
at
205.
Was this the fight where there was the fingers in the gloves? Is this the fight that there was a weird spot and the ref came in, was guarded in this? Maybe not.
It might have been. It was like these fights all blended together with time. It was the weird time of the day. It's usually when the first fights would be starting for us, so it was like I was getting ants in my pants. I was like walking around my house.
So, either way, we are going on to the main event. The heavyweights ended up coming through. We had a big underdog as well. Not as confident. You did switch my mind on this one, and it came through. We both, though, ended up picking the perfect way this finished. Ended up betting a plus 2,200 bet 4th round against Volkov. I made that bet twice because I felt so confident that right after we finished shooting the podcast and then up until right before all of that chair stuff, I know that my boy freaking the Newt himself had a good little breakdown that made me even more confident in Volkov as it went down with the chair. Alpaca. Made really good points on how Verdum's trying to bring in existential stuff to like help boost his morale because he's intimidated in there. And guess what? I make money moves. I parlayed Henry, Volkov, and Blockowitz to get ridiculous plus like 1,000 something on.
Nice.
It was just cash in bets. That parlay I didn't do twice, but either way, that perfect pick. 4th round finish. Verdum was looking good in there. Regular old Verdum.
Verdum's going to be fine. He just needs time off. But that's what you'll notice. Same as Damian Maia. Same thing I pointed out before. The Brazilian fighters go on that hot 3-fight streak, and then we don't see him for over a year. And Jose Aldo, perfect example. Another one of those guys. Rafael dos Anjos. Like all those Brazilian fighters, hot streak. And they must get a certain amount of cash that their family, they live off of. They can fight and all that. And then they're all prepped up. I think something that American training style has learned is it's great for your body to have that time off in between.
A break. Everybody needs a break.
Like a little come down. I think we see a better Cowboy Cerrone when he's in there. We're seeing a better Robbie Lawler when he's in there. I think they have a little more patience inside the octagon. They're not going in there for just the slugfest anymore. Mm-hmm. So Verdum's going to have problems going forward because of his goofiness. That being said, his goofiness is what's going to win him fights going forward with those crazy kicks still. All of a sudden, like kick to the midsection, crazy kick to he still has speed on him.
Yeah, he wanted to come out and do that crazy Verdum kick to the face, how he's patented for, but Volkov was all over it. Very composed, both 8 shots. Early in the fight, there was an injury to Verdum's eye that did affect that line of sight. and that happened in the first round. We were like, ooh, that might be stopped. By the way, the
he got
amount
cut
of
here, above his
above
right
his
eye,
eye,
left
yep.
eye, and under his left eye.
right.
Or right eye.
There was, I believe, in the second or third round, though, they let him come out with half of a can of Vaseline on his face. It was absolute trash that ref let that go
Especially
on.
for a guy who's known to be a submission guy. Not that it's good anywhere, but
Yeah,
I just feel
because-
like if your head is going to get caught in a submission and it slips right out.
I don't think so necessarily that so much. What I see it happening is Volkov throws a jab, and that glob transfers to his glove, and then that glove now is forever slick.
So it slides off.
So
his
it's
punches.
exactly. It changes the dynamic of the fight. So Volkov though really used his wrestling in reverse.
Yeah.
We really
He
profiled
was
that.
safe in round one, and I thought he was in danger.
There was a
lot
few
of
times
that.
where Verdum almost got him down, but as we always say with some of these jiu-jitsu guys, they don't have good takedowns, and if you can't get it to the ground, all of a sudden you're standing with an elite striker. And that's exactly what happened. Verdum has been an elite striker for a long time, but Volkov had a wonderful game plan. In the third, there was times that this could have been finished for Verdum, even though he was always a live dog in there. Maybe more so in the first, but in that fourth round, you could really see Verdum. In that third round, in between that minute, Verdum was hurting.
He was never a live dog in there. He was always the favorite.
Or yeah, I guess.
I'm just kidding. I know
Right,
what you
right,
meant.
right. Well, he was right. He was losing that fight definitely,
But
but
at any
he
time, he
could
was
have
still
finished
dangerous.
it. Yeah, he was
He
still
was-
very, very dangerous, and he'll beat a lot of other people. But cashing on Volkov, I had him on tons of DraftKings as well.
Volkov is going to be a heavyweight fight stifler going forward. Where
Definitely.
he's going to take the excitement out of a lot of these fights where it's just their knockouts in round one, knockouts in round two.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to cause a lot. I think there's money to be made on him going forward.
Totally.
I think he's going to be an
agree.
underdog going against bigger names.
So he though takes up what spot? Because Fabricio was in that top 5. Now he, especially with a knockout, there's no way that you cannot.
Volkov's
Give him.
in fourth. I think he's right above right below Francis Ngannou,
Uh-huh.
right above Derek Lewis. And I think
That's a good call.
And
Yeah.
I think you would have to put Fabricio Verdum right below now Alexander Overeem.
I like that. I like all of those plays. Did you actually hear that in the heavyweight division?
So we got Stipe. I think it's totally fine, and I'm okay with
Yep.
moving Daniel up to right to the number one contender spot of that. I'm okay with it because he's been a belt holder for so long.
Yeah,
I'm okay with
and
it.
it's happened before.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. It's funny how we were just talking about this division 6 months ago, how dead of a division it was.
And now it's revitalized.
Wow.
So as you were saying, Derek Lewis, as I was about to say, did you see what he was saying on Twitter? Via
I saw Francis Ngannou this morning.
That's who it was. Francis Ngannou was talking about Derek
Racist!
Lewis. Sorry.
Racist! You got it confused because they black.
It's true.
All
They
black
look
people.
so no.
We're walking
no.
down the street. He goes up to every black dude.
Francis Ngannou!
You're my Ngannou! And I'm like, dude, what about they don't watch UFC?
So, not really at all. This is a black on black crime, though, that I do want to see. Derek Lewis as well has been kind of saying like, he don't want to see that. Why do two people want to see two beautiful black men fight? And it is because all of the violence that happens in a Derek Lewis and a Ngannou fight. It's whether Derek Lewis can stay in it. Blades couldn't stay in that fight, and he's got a tough ass chin as well. Derek Lewis has always got that puncher's chance, and
But didn't Blades get his a Kimura?
nope. He got his eye cut. It was injury.
The
Due to
doctor.
injury. It was
Doctor
doctor
stoppage.
stoppage.
Okay.
It wasn't him quitting.
Yeah, I knew it was something weird. It wasn't a
it wasn't a
knockout.
quit. It wasn't a quit by Blades at all whatsoever. But that's a super fun fight. What other ones were made over the weekend? They announced a few other
You
fights.
just said something about, I can't believe we didn't talk about it either. Volkov travels with Olenek and is his training partner.
Oh, yes. That is a very good point.
I can't even
And
believe we didn't discuss that.
I can't believe that we didn't even discuss or manage a way to break it into our breakdown. That Cyborg herself is actually bringing in the big dogs, the big guns, the one woman who knows how to get champions ready for their next up and coming fights. We have the Bullet making her patented Bullet appearance again, in Christiana
this.
Cyborg's corner, she's going to be getting her ready for, is it the Nunes fight or the whoever she fights, doesn't matter. But either way, Shevchenko is not only going to go teach Cyborg some stuff, she's going to learn some stuff. And this is the Traveling Samurai, Shevchenko's sister, Muay Thai girls, twins, whatever their channel is. This is what they do.
And is Rose going with them? Rose and Pat, which probably they have the equal mentality of that Traveling Samurai.
Which, if anyone's training with Cyborg...
Training champions.
Exactly. Iron sharpens iron. That's going to be such a fun one.
If you guys need two nerds to be fanboys and follow you guys around, fangirls, Lesbo and The Bean are here.
Fan people.
We would love that. Sit there for one day with the three of those ladies. They're three of my favorites in the whole sport. Not just three of my favorite ladies. Three of my favorite fighters in the sport are those three ladies.
Mary F. Kill.
This is a good one. Oh, fuck. You know who I gotta kill right away, and I'm so sorry. Oh, I don't know. Let me change this around. Let me really think deep about this for a second. Because the obvious is that you kill silent. Let me talk it out. I won't just keep it silent. We'll talk it out because we're doing audio as well. The obvious is that you kill Chris. Because,
of course,
like, that's the obvious. But
because she'll beat you up.
Part of me
if you make
is
the coffee
like,
wrong.
Don't you believe that Chris might be the best wife going forward, and she could protect you?
She's a ride or die. She's a ride or die. She can be bodyguard and take care of you. Yeah.
She might be the best wife going forward.
I could see that.
But I can't kill the other two, so I'm sorry, Chris. You gotta die. You kill Chris Cyborg.
That's justified. That's what I would have done as well.
Okay. So.
But then, if we're playing real context, could Rose be in there because she's married, or does not even matter?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, and then I would think, like, okay, you marry Rose. She knows how to be a wife. She's a wife. She's married to Pat right now. You marry Rose. But then I think, for me personally, I'm a lot. Rose seems like a fucking lot. She seems like a little bit of a head case. I fucking love Rose Namajunas, but she seems like she's into woo. Like, I'm into woo-saw. I believe in magic, but Rose seems like
she's young. She's learning about herself.
She seems like she knows 10 times more about herself than I know about myself. She seems like she's like a Buddha. Like, she almost seems too deep for me. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for Rose. She seems like, I don't know. But then, Shevchenko, you wouldn't be just marrying Shevchenko. You'd be marrying her fucking family. So are you ready to fucking wake up every day, shoot guns? Like, that's a life.
That's actually the way I would play, would be marry Shev. Because that's a traveling life. You're going around the world. You're going around shooting stuff all over the world. Okay, you got a badass sidekick who's going to be dancing. Oh, I think that's the way I would play. Yep.
Killer body.
Exactly. Killer mind style.
Make you a better person every day.
Exactly.
So, okay, I think we agree. You marry Bullet Valentina.
Yeah.
You fuck Rose Namajunas. And
we don't
even like the word. Okay, let's change the word fuck to make love. So you marry Bullet Valentina Shevchenko. You make love to Rose Namajunas.
You caress and
you chokehold Chris Cyborg, because I don't even like saying killing, because I love Chris Cyborg.
I know.
That was beautiful, beautiful podcast magic that you just created.
So
perfect question. I don't even know what you say after that. We got every fight still in. Iaquinta's still going. Khabib's still there, which we talked about that. How scary. Why would you put them both on the same card?
Back into the fight night real quick, if I may. I absolutely loved how Leon Edwards called out Darren Till cage side and peaced out. He didn't mic drop because I don't want to say he did that, but he was just like, Darren Till, I got your number. You're all hype, homie. I got you. And walked out. And you could see the announcer just being like, all right, going on to the next fight.
What's going on with Darren Till? What are they? I'm having a problem with what they're deciding to do with him. Is he turning down fights, or are people turning down fights with him, or is the UFC holding him up for some reason unknown, like to try to build him and put him on this bigger card and things keep falling through? I just think whatever's happening, whoever's playing Darren Till's career is playing it dumb. They're not playing smart with him. He had one good fight and knocked out Cowboy. They should have steamrolled off that heat. How long has that fight been? A year since that fight?
It's been a while, and he's only been talking about I think there needs to be a drinking game of when Darren Till says, the time I beat Donald Cerrone.
I don't even know if he brings it up as much as everyone else. I think there needs to be a drinking
just
game
hear
every time Ariel Helwani says,
remember the time you beat Donald? Yes, it was your last fight. We all remember.
We all
Move on.
know.
Move on. We need other
all
fights.
know.
But he looked like a big man. And they made, even when they were interviewing him, there was a few guys that were like, you do not make it to 170
This is the other
pounds.
thing. I don't know how you feel about this. Have you noticed this new... Brian Ortega kind of started it, and now it's becoming this thing the younger guys are doing where they're touting off about how much they're weighing at walk-in time?
I have noticed that, and specifically with the weight cutting and the weight restrictions that are going on, I don't see that that's beneficial because it means other people can control by saying, you're not medically fit. Whether you feel good or not, there's just, nobody's 100% ever, and not to say that there was an excuse. One of the fighters with that last fight that fell out, there could have been issues. Even with that Marshman fight, there's issues. But, yeah, again, you're giving people information that they don't need to know. Not many people need to know.
Well, it seems part of, like, your game plan. It's one of your secrets.
Right, exactly.
They shouldn't...
Know how drained you are because it was a hard weight cut, this and that. So, other quick stats with Fight Night, P27.
I have the Francis Ngannou quote.
Oh, okay. Let me hear it word for word. Ngannou style.
Derek Lewis has been talking some of his shit while I was off. Can someone please let him know that I am here now? So if he really wants me, he should send his manager to deal with UFC. That's scary AF.
I hope you would. I was thinking you were going to do it in an alien voice and go...
It sounded almost like... it sounded almost like... what's that? Drago from Rocky? Draco?
Yeah, I could see. It was ethnic, for sure. So...
It was white ethnic. It wasn't... It's not African.
Well, most people come in to listen to LaTB for its personalities
well, one
and
of the things that I feel like I'm like the queen of... what is it? Impersonations.
Impersonations. You're the Joe Rogan of impersonations because he impersonates everyone.
Yeah, I'm the lesbian Joe Rogan.
What a claim! Wow. Well, I could use that Joe Rogan money, so I ain't hating too much.
I don't know what else there is to talk about.
Though, I do have a quick to talk about the Fight Night. As we said, they botched it. UFC botched it with UK and how much they could have had the main event be some local guy. They had scattered the card with all sorts of European fighters, which cashed out. Big fan bases for every single European fighter there. You could hear it in the crowd.
Yes. The
gate ended up being $2.8 million. Attendance was 16,000, and against the last fight nights consecutively, 224 was $800,000 gate, and 226 was 7,900,000. So in 2 million, they did all right, even though they messed with the card. But that's the veracity that people in the UK are consuming MMA and people globally, and that's why this sport's growing so much. That's why we love you guys over in the UK.
Love
listen.
You. Make sure you like and subscribe for everywhere that you want to follow Lesdog. You can go to lesboandthebean.com, Lesbo and The Bean on Twitter, lesboandthebean@gmail, and we are going to be working at something to set up Patreon, not for anything big, but we need a P.O. box. People have been asking us about how to send us things, and so we have to get a P.O. box set up, and maybe we can do that out of pocket. It's not like it's $1 million to set up, but... We ain't made of money. We just make money move.
We just make money move.
We just make money move. It. So thanks for listening. XOXO.
Let's move the
beat. You want to make money on MMA? LaTB. You want to know who to put it in your parlay? LaTB. You want to know our DraftKings stay away? LaTB. So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick?